Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
For all of its gifts, the Torah gives us very little guidance about how to observe this day of remembrance with the horns of the shofar. Leviticus 23, verse 24 says essentially just that the first day of the 7th month is a holy day, and it should be commemorated with the blowing of the shofar. And that's about all we have. A tiny seed from which grew the tradition of Rosh Hashanah, which the Torah does not even give as its name. This is Yom Zichron Teruah, that day of remembrance. But with all of that terseness, the rabbis were so compelled to create something wonderful, to provide their own fertilizer, that it grew and grew to the magnificent traditions and liturgy and shofar ceremony and foods and celebrations and wishes that we have to this very day. It took nigh on 2 millennia to actually come to the Rosh Hashanah that we would recognize. And over the last few years that I've been privileged to be with Ner Tamid, we've taken this evening as a kind of gentle entry into the High Holy Days and had just a little bit of fun looking at the meanings and significance of some of the foods that are associated with this holiday, some of the biggest symbols. Because after all, Rosh Hashanah is a birthday. It's a birthday party for creation. And how better to celebrate a birthday than with special foods, special songs, and of course, presents. A number of years ago, I asked a group of children, what gift would you give the earth for its birthday? And I think about that again every year because their answers were so delicious. I would give the earth a hug. I would give the earth a book. I would give the earth a smile. I would give the earth peace and happiness and hope from the mouths of children. So what gifts have we brought to this birthday party for the world? And with what foods do we celebrate? So over the last few years, we've looked at apples and honey and pomegranates. One year we detoured and looked more closely at the shofar. And last year we talked about heads. Heads of fish or rams. And in many houses nowadays, people say to one another, let us have a good year. And they put a head of lettuce on their Rosh Hashanah table. And they sing songs. And I have had a joyous time this year exploring some of the traditions from our Sephardic brothers and sisters. I had a wonderful time researching and writing about that for our Hagesher, our newsletter from our community, describing the experience in so many Sephardic homes of a Rosh Hashanah Seder, not reserving a Seder just for Passover, which is a biblical command, although that took a lot of developing as well, but a Seder for Rosh Hashanah, with special foods and rituals and wishes for one another. It's unclear when Rosh Hashanah Seders became commonplace, but the practice of eating symbolic foods was actually already a custom in the Talmud. During a discussion about omens, and the Talmudic rabbis loved to talk about omens, whether they were valid or not, there was not wide agreement, but in Tractate Horayot, 12a, the sage Abaye said, a person should always be accustomed to seeing these on Rosh Hashanah. Now, if you just read that, most of us would fill in with apples and honey and maybe pomegranates, but no. Abaye said these should be on the Rosh Hashanah table. Squash, fenugreek, leeks, chard, dates, because each of these grows quickly and serves as a positive omen for one's good actions during the coming year. Some families do arrange foods on a Seder plate, like one would do during Passover, and others incorporate those foods into separate dishes that are then served during the meal, such as bean soup or stuffed dates. There's no authoritative text for the Rosh Hashanah Seder. Different communities use different lists and arrange the foods in totally different orders. So we can stop and think about that for a second. Rosh Hashanah Seder should mean a Rosh Hashanah order. But if many families and communities have different orders, I think we have an indication that there's a little bit of custom going on and a lot of creativity that's invited. So the exact order varies between families and communities. Jews from Libya mix sugar and sesame seeds instead of fenugreek or string beans. But each blessing over these simanim, these symbols or omens, begins with Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Hashem Elokeinu ve'Elohei avotenu. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestors. And this is followed by a hope for something that will happen in the new year. So we might also take note that these are not actual blessings, they're wishes, but they're indicative of the incredible creativity and innovation that our Jewish people, our Jewish family, scattered all over the world and having access to very different flavors and spices and vegetables and fruits, have incorporated into this tradition. It's one of so many indications of how this beautiful Jewish tradition of ours is ongoing and evolving, and should be an invitation to each of us to maybe put our own unique spin, to bring our own particular gift to the High Holy Days, and especially to Rosh Hashanah. In the Hagesher, I talked about the symbolism of dates and string beans, and in each of the symbols, the word in Hebrew or Aramaic has been a starting point for some creativity when making the blessings. So I'll share just a couple extra. So the leeks that appear on many Sephardic Rosh Hashanah Sidarim, leeks in Aramaic are called karit, and the Hebrew term for cutting off is karet. Leeks represent the hope that anyone who might come to do us ill or even to wish ill upon us will be cut off. Quite similar for Swiss chard or beets, as selek is the term for beets in both Hebrew and Aramaic, and it sounds like silek or depart. So the prayer becomes, or the wish, Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu sheyistalku oivenu ve'sonenu ve'kol mevasker ra'atenu. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestors, that anyone who might wish ill upon us shall quickly find the exit out of our lives. For a squash or a gourd, the Aramaic word kera sounds like the Hebrew word keria, to tear, and also kara, to proclaim or announce. So the blessing recited before eating squash or gourd at a Rosh Hashanah Seder reflects this dual connection. It says, may it be your will, O God and God of our ancestors, that anything we have done for ill in the past year be ripped up, torn, and that our merits, kara, be announced before you, O God. Endlessly playful, fascinating enjoyment with language where the foods aren't just tasty and colorful and lovely to look at, but they actually contain blessings within them. And the fact that there are so many, actually, that's just a few, is again indicative of how meaningful and deep our table, which stands in for the ancient altar, can be. It's a far cry from just dipping apples in honey, isn't it? So many new and tasty opportunities. But of course, no birthday party is complete without singing some songs. Whether it's happy birthday to you, or Yom Huledet Sameach, or today it's your birthday, or you say it's your birthday by the Beatles, there are songs in the Sephardic tradition that are particularly noteworthy. And because we may be unfamiliar with them, I wanted to teach myself and also just reach out to our brothers and sisters from Sephardic traditions and think a little bit about a song that is apparently quite central for the Rosh Hashanah Seder. Cantor Rudy knows that I often have been known to say God is mysterious. And I said that again when we were looking at our new Machzor, our new prayer book for the High Holy Days. And lo and behold, there is an excerpt from this very piyut, this very poem, this liturgical song, and it's on page 22. If you turn there right now, I'm just going to direct your attention to the first line of the last couplet on the page. You could maybe cover the last line. It says, Tichle Shana v'kileloteha. Translated in our Machzor as, may this year's troubles end. This is from a piyut called Achot Ketana, Little Sister. And it is a poem of 8 stanzas, and it was written by a man who has no other credits to his name. But this piyut is beloved in the Sephardic community by Avraham Chazan Girondi, and the little sister of whom he speaks is, of course, the people of Israel. It's an astounding poem, and I can provide the words for anyone who would like. It's pretty strong. It's quite tough. But as was the tradition in the Middle Ages when this was written in the 13th century, the facility with biblical text is extraordinary. In 8 verses, Avraham Girondi quotes from Song of Songs, Numbers, Isaiah, Psalms, Malachi, Proverbs, Jeremiah, and Genesis, and some of them multiple times. In stanza after stanza, we hear things like, the little sister arranges her prayers and declares her praises. Please, God, heal her now. Tichle Shana v'kileloteha. May the past year and its troubles end. It goes on to describe various stages in Jewish history, most of them quite difficult, but each with a reminder that every time we come around again, we have come around again. It has been another year of difficulties, more than we can probably count. And it may feel like the box we bring to the new year, if it's filled, has a tattered wrapping paper and maybe a recycled bow. Maybe it's something we've pulled out of our closets, like the old white elephant notion. Maybe we feel that our gift is too meager to bring. but a poem that says over and over again, let's shed the troubles of the last year, is ultimately a poem of hope. We know, of course, that the coming year will bring its own challenges. And probably each of us can and should take a long minute to think of what has gone before us this past year that we'd like to just leave behind. Let's take that minute to do that. Let some of the weight come off of the last year. On Rosh Hashanah, we give thanks for being alive, for being sustained and brought to this day. Tichle Shana v'kileloteha. Let the troubles of the last year go. And in the final stanza of this beautiful poem, this difficult, painful poem, that's kind of a cathartic purge of everything that we've been carrying, Avraham Girondi writes, Chizku vegilu, kishod gamar. Be strong and rejoice, for the trouble is over. Litzor hochilo berito shamar. Put hope in the rock and guard the covenant of the eternal. Let us go up to Zion and say, pave her highways. Tachel shana uvirchotecha. Let the new year of blessings begin. Let the new year of blessing be a gift. Let us bring our best. Spice up our foods with sweetness and light. Find meaning in every bite. Let the old year go and the new one beckon. Shana Tova. May it be a year of blessings and sweetness.